Reserved Melania, Trump is furious. The woman who wants to be First Lady is taking on several media outlets that she says printed false reports about her personal life. Now Melania is threatening to sue. Les Trent.
Joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them, and I think he took that hit and really doubled down the other direction.
Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times he's second only to Justin Trudeau in his fondness for the practice. Yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal.
Jimmy Kimmel may have just made the most expensive joke of his career, a single punchline that could cost him $100 million and something even more valuable, his carefully constructed empire. The late-night host, who spent the better part of a decade building his brand on the back of mocking the Trump family, now finds himself in the crosshairs of a silent and furious Melania Trump. While he laughed from his polished Hollywood stage, a storm was brewing in the shadows, one that commentators like Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly say could be the karmic finale to his reign as television's chief moral crusader. The man who dished it out with nightly glee is now facing a backlash so severe from so many different angles that it threatens to dismantle everything he has become. The court jester, it seems, has finally provoked the queen.
And you need to defend yourself all the time. As you may heard, I file a few lawsuits. And I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life. And they wrote lies. And I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
Late night comics would come on and they occasionally would make us laugh, Piers. I mean, occasionally they understood that they were in the game of making everyone laugh. As you know, they've abandoned that game now and they're just political operatives out there. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers, who I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute prick.
It all boiled over during the 96th Academy Awards. With millions watching, Kimmel, in his fourth stint as host, couldn't resist twisting the knife one more time. He read Donald Trump's scathing review of his performance live on air, then shot back with a question dripping with condescension. "Isn't it past your jail time?" But the real venom was in a joke he'd made earlier, a pointed jab questioning why Melania wasn't present at her husband's recent election night victory party. The implication was clear, cruel, and aimed directly at the heart of their marriage. This time, however, the response was swift and bifurcated. Donald Trump, back at the undeniable center of American politics, unleashed a furious tirade on Truth Social, calling Kimmel the worst host in Oscar history and a wannabe who was trying too hard. But it was the other response that truly mattered, the cold, calculated silence from Melania. She has proven time and again that she prefers to fight her battles not with impulsive tweets, but with the full, crushing weight of the legal system. This wasn't just another joke. For a woman who has endured years of public ridicule, it felt like the final, unforgivable straw.
Obviously, Kimmel's love of blackface was not a deal breaker for ABC, which already employs him as a late-night host, and which, in addition to its many blackface awards shows, also produced and promoted many shows and stars in blackface. It appears the real sin with blackface, you see, is talking about how standards on it have...
There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or going to work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs, and then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explaining to the people, okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause.
To understand how Kimmel became such a polarizing figure, you have to travel back in time and look at the man he used to be. Before he was a progressive pundit who cried on camera, he was the unapologetic co-host of The Man Show. It was a program that was the absolute antithesis of today's politically correct culture, famous for its crass sophomoric humor, endless beer chugging, and its most infamous segment featuring scantily clad women jumping on trampolines. He was a bro comic, completely divorced from politics, whose only mission was to deliver irreverent, often juvenile, fun. But somewhere along the line, as the cultural winds shifted, a profound transformation occurred. He shed his old skin like a snake and emerged as a full-time scold with a teleprompter and a messiah complex. His show became a nightly sermon on healthcare, gun control, and the moral failings of his political opponents. To his loyal fan base, it was a sign of maturation and growth. To critics like Joe Rogan, however, it was a disingenuous and calculated pivot, a comedian who realized that in the elite circles of modern Hollywood, performative moral grandstanding earns far more applause and accolades than crafting actual jokes. He wasn't evolving, he was pandering.
For the practice, yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal, absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a
And let's not forget,
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
Ask
did
him how many.
5x what he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do.
And that's when the skeletons in his own closet came rattling out with a vengeance. The biggest and most damning of them all, his repeated, enthusiastic, and well-documented use of blackface. For years on The Man Show, Kimmel darkened his skin, adopted a blaccent, and did a recurring, exaggerated impression of NBA star Karl Malone. It wasn't a one-off mistake in his youth. It was a signature bit, one he performed over and over. He did another cringe-worthy impression of Oprah Winfrey. In today's climate, such an act is considered a career-ending sin, yet Kimmel has largely been given a pass. Megyn Kelly has relentlessly hammered this point, highlighting the glaring hypocrisy. The very same man who lectures the nation on social justice and racial sensitivity spent a significant portion of his career engaging in one of the most offensive forms of caricature. The double standard was so blindingly obvious it was insulting. ABC, his employer, and the very network that broadcast the Oscars looked the other way, allowing their star to host their biggest award shows while the evidence of his blackface past was just a Google search away. He was protected by the same Hollywood elite that would have crucified anyone else for the exact same offense. Kimmel's long-running campaign against Melania Trump was never just standard political commentary. It felt deeply personal, obsessive, and often needlessly cruel. He relentlessly mocked her accent, once joking that she stole her Be Best anti-bullying campaign speech from Michelle Obama because she was the only other person who speaks English in the family. He trafficked in bizarre conspiracy theories, popularizing the idea that she used a body double to avoid appearing with her husband. He ridiculed her White House Christmas decorations and belittled her intelligence at every opportunity. For years, he used a former model and mother, a woman who has never run for office, never held public power, and never sought the political spotlight as his personal punching bag. It was a classic case of a powerful man on a multi-million-dollar platform bullying a private citizen, all while framing it as brave political satire. But while his hand-picked studio audience laughed on cue, a growing number of people saw it for what it was: weak, pathetic, and mean-spirited. And you can be sure that Melania, a woman known for her poise and patience, was keeping a detailed list of every single insult.
You know how much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News channel. We're 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcasts out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay? 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults Because he looks a little...
How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on his show, and he goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald.
Joe Rogan, from his podcasting throne, diagnosed the problem with the precision of a surgeon. He described Kimmel as a man hopelessly trapped in the most leftist thought bubble available, completely insulated from the reality of half the country by his adoring Hollywood echo chamber. Rogan argued that Kimmel had lost his comedic nerve, trading the dangerous, edgy humor of his past for safe, predictable jokes that were guaranteed to please his celebrity friends and a specific political demographic. He called Kimmel's transformation a spiritual makeover sponsored by celebrity approval. More scathingly, Rogan painted a picture of late-night television as a hollow enterprise, with hosts like Kimmel simply reading lines from a teleprompter to an audience that is literally told when to applaud by a warm-up comedian. He contrasted this inauthentic performance with the raw, unscripted conversations that were drawing millions to podcasts. Rogan saw the growing backlash against Kimmel not as an attack on comedy itself, but as a form of karmic judo, the act of using an opponent's own smug, self-righteous momentum to flip them onto their back. While Rogan focused on the karma, Megyn Kelly delivered the ruthless, ice-cold business reality check. She methodically broke down the numbers, revealing just how far Kimmel's cultural influence had actually fallen. She pointed out that his show on a massive free-to-air network was averaging a paltry 1.5 million viewers. To put that in perspective, she noted that Greg Gutfeld on cable news was pulling in more than double that number. She highlighted the fact that Jimmy Fallon, his direct competitor, had seen his audience plummet from over 2.3 million a few years ago to just 1.3 million. She contrasted these dismal figures with the explosive numbers people like Tucker Carlson were getting with low-budget videos shot in their own homes, which were racking up tens of millions of views. Her point was devastatingly clear: Jimmy Kimmel is a paper tiger. He has the fancy studio, the network backing, and a reported salary north of $15 million a year, but the people are simply tuning out. His moral sermons were being preached to an ever-shrinking choir, making his attacks feel less like a powerful cultural force and more like the desperate, bitter cries of a man watching his relevance fade in real time.
Last night was the 96th Academy Awards show, and while you might have missed it, there was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Winner number one, Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man. Now, I will tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1 million, 778,000. I mean, for network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV. You plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, it has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible. And then there's The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, who back when I was there, 2017-18, he was averaging 2.3 million a night. Now he's down to 1.3 million, Jesse. And he cannot afford the "you are toxic" controversy because he's also pulling in reportedly over $15 million a year. So you got all that money for 1.5 million in audience, which is a nothing. I mean, the middle of the day on Fox News gets that, or at least used to before the Tucker controversy.
This brings us to the terrifying specter of the $100 million lawsuit. While reports of a formally filed suit remain unconfirmed rumor, the threat itself is anything but a joke. Melania Trump has a very clear and documented history of using the legal system to ferociously defend her name. She famously sued the Daily Mail in the UK and the US for publishing a false report about her past, forcing them to issue a public apology and pay her a settlement reportedly worth millions. She is not a career politician who has to tolerate slander and libel as an unavoidable part of the job. She is a private citizen with immense resources and a demonstrated willingness to hire the best, most aggressive lawyers money can buy to silence and punish her critics. The idea of a 9-figure lawsuit isn't just wild speculation. It's a very real and credible threat from a woman who has crossed this bridge before and won. It's a prospect that would send a chill down the spine of any public figure, even one as wealthy and connected as Jimmy Kimmel. A perfect storm is now closing in on Jimmy Kimmel, and it threatens to wash away his entire career. Donald Trump is once again the dominant force in American politics, a reality Kimmel swore would never happen. His own glaring hypocrisy, particularly his history with blackface, has been laid bare for all to see, stripping him of any moral high ground. His television ratings are in a free fall, suggesting his brand of comedy is becoming obsolete. And the person he mocked most relentlessly for years has turned out to be a quiet, formidable adversary with a history of winning massive lawsuits. Perhaps most tellingly, the Hollywood allies and fellow comedians who once applauded his every political sermon have gone completely silent, unwilling to be dragged into a legal and public relations war with a 9-figure price tag. The man who once sat on a throne of self-righteousness now finds himself exposed, vulnerable, and utterly alone. The real question is no longer whether his jokes are funny, but whether his career can possibly survive the consequences of them. The man who spent a decade as a court jester mocking the king and queen is now facing a trial in their court. And this time, the only laugh track will be the sound of his own empire crumbling.